speaker is Marlet Kompion-Venter. She's a primary healthcare expert, and she's going to talk on botany this time. So over to you, Marlet.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you to the Rent the Crowd friends I made. Timekeeper, are we starting? Yes. Okay, good. So here I go. Most of you will then know me. Good afternoon, goeiemiddag, buenas tardes, dumela. I come from a multilingual country. My talk is on the role of African traditional medicinal plants in primary healthcare in South Africa. I'm a public health specialist, or una salubrista, as they called us in Barcelona when I was doing my MPH. Let me start with acknowledgements. Firstly, UJ. Without them, we would not be here. And UJ is the professor here in the front, my supervisor, and the rest of the codes as well. Prof, thank you for the opportunity. And lastly, the Society of Ethnobiology and Society of Economic Botany for organizing this and hosting us. And then actually, lastly, plug for the 25th Indigenous Plant Use Forum Conference hosted in Skukuza. Go and check the website out. I start. The research questions. You see that this is a cross-disciplinary approach, and it's an exploratory study to investigate the potential role of traditional medicinal plants in primary healthcare system. Which traditional medicinal plants are currently used in the primary system? Question 1. Question 2, which species have the best potential to be used safely and effectively and affordably, because we're from the third world, in primary healthcare to treat symptoms of self-terminating and chronic ailments? A quick overview. These 3 books, all published in South Africa, discusses the most widely used and most important medicinal plants, and thus possibly contain the most relevant plants for primary healthcare. All 3 elucidate botanical, phytochemical, and commercial aspects, as well as reflecting on the most commonly used and best known medicinal plants in my country. Next, I'm going to explain shifts in the formal healthcare system in South Africa, because as you are aware, post-apartheid, 97, during apartheid, healthcare systems were segregated. So one of the first things the first democratically elected government did was to publish a white paper on the transformation of the health system. And the intention is not only integration of the previously segregated health systems, but it also starts the emphasis on a shift to a primary healthcare approach. In 2008, Professor van Wyk, our plenary chair, was invited to join a team and he eventually wrote the thing, they published a draft policy on African traditional medicine in South Africa with 3 outcomes: capacitating and protecting traditional health practitioners and users of African traditional medicine, protecting African traditional medicine knowledge, and then strengthening also our national healthcare system. And then just from a global perspective, us in the global south, we always have to look up north a bit as well. And our study fits into Sustainable Development Goal number 3, ensuring healthy lives and promoting well-being for all at all ages. We do question the wording of modern, efficient healthcare, because where does that leave our traditional knowledge systems as well as our traditional medicine systems? Question. I'm moving on to the research methodology, and I'm drinking a sip of water. I did a literature review, PhD student, specifically to see what has been published with a keyword that uses primary healthcare. I use an electronic search engines, the ones we are familiar with, did a Boolean search looking at traditional medicinal plants and primary healthcare with all the various iterations. There's not one English, there are variations of English, and obviously South Africa. I got a hit list, manually editing, cutting out Ethiopia, Mozambique, Namibia, Maputo-land, and then unsuitable keywords for our interests. Women farmers, veterinarian care, which left me with 29 papers to extract my data from. So this is what I got. And then So total number of species mentioned, 954. Once you eliminate duplications, 454 species. And what I did is I then decided, because there were so many, we decided that species mentioned in more than 5 of my 29 papers, that would become our literature review species list. And then this is what it looks like when we look at the families, with the families of the most frequently cited species: Asteraceae 54, Fabaceae 44, Asparagaceae 32. 68% are indigenous plants, 20% naturalized, 12 cultivated. And here is something just to bring it to the plants, because here we are seeing Hypoxis hemerocallidea is the plant mentioned the most. It's the plant cited the most, 13 times. Secondly, is Siphonochilus aethiopicus. Sorry, now I'm stressed. Excuse. And what I must say here is that the top 2 most cited species, one is a very important medicinal plant in the Zulu culture and likely to become even more popular in the future, while the other plant is rather obscure and was made famous due to serious financial investment in marketing. The first plant is Hypoxis hemerocallidea, also known as sterblom, starflower, or incomfe. The second one is Siphonochilus aethiopicus, cited 10 times in the 29 papers, commonly known as African ginger or isipepeto in Zulu. And here is where the celebrista now goes, okay. And then I look to the ethnobotanist to go, what do we do now? Because now we need to interpret this data. And this is where the value of this multidisciplinary research group really comes to the fore. So I start with the comparisons of my priority species. And in order to do that, there are 4 within the research group, 4 cultural groups have already been studied. And I start with the first study is Van Wyk, published 2008, which lists 51 medicinal plants of commercial importance based on ease of cultivation, proven efficacy, and ethnobotanical insights. Number 2 is in the Zulu culture based on quantitative ethnobotanical surveys and using a species popularity index values, which I will explain in the subsequent slide. Third is a study of Sotho culture, reflecting top 35 species, where the order of the list is determined by literature citations. And lastly, study by Norkia, where the top 21 species is based again on the species popularity index. And this is a quick overview. What it is, this was published the first time in 2010 by Van Wyk and De Beer, and it allows ethnobotanists to collect high quality primary data. And it consists of a flip file of photos and plants that are to be studied. And they ask 3 questions. Do you know the plant? Do you have a name for it? Do you know of any uses? And then those answers get put into this matrix. And the horizontal score gives us information on the species popularity index. And if we calculate the score on the vertical axis, it gives us the information on the ethnobotanical knowledge index of each particular participant. Horizontally, we combine the participants. So quickly, first study, because now I need to compare my species frequency list with actual studies. And it's Van Wyk, and Van Wyk discusses the 47 most commercially important medicinal plants in South Africa ranked by citation. And here is the comparison. And we see a good agreement of 11 species from the literature review list that agrees with 11 from Van Wyk's 47. If we look at Mhlongo, who is here today, in the Zulu culture, there's agreement of 5 out of the 51 important medicinal plants in the Zulu culture. When we look at Mutiti and Van Wyk that did a study of Sotho culture, we see something is changing. There's only agreement of 3 out of Mutiti and Van Wyk's 35 species. And lastly is Norkia, who did the study on the Nama culture, which is in a very semi-desert area. And there's agreement of 5 species. And this in summary. After comparison with these 4 studies, the ethnobotanists can already intuitively predict which species will be the most suitable for primary healthcare. And we propose the following 5 species as it fulfills many of the requirements for treating common ailments or self-terminating ailments. And here are the 5. Artemisia afra, leaf infusions used for cold, flu, stomach pain. Aloe ferox, the leaf juice is used to ease constipation. The Certia frutescens, it's used for colds and influenza. General tonic, it stimulates appetite because it's bitter. Carprobotus edulis, where the leaf juice is used as a gargle to ease a sore throat. And lastly, Bulbina frutescens, where the leaf gel is used for skin abrasions and minor burns. And here we are at the conclusions. From the literature review, it became clear that traditional medicinal plants are poorly explored in the context of primary healthcare in South Africa. Furthermore, the prominence of certain plants given in the literature is due to commercial marketing, you will relate to this, and the investment in the marketing of that, and not actually on recorded traditional use. Quantitative ethnobotanical surveys and review papers provide sufficient data to determine which plant species are appropriate for use in primary healthcare. And then ethnobotanical surveys do not always describe how the plants are used. My handful is different to somebody else's handful. And it also doesn't really discuss treatment duration. No distinction is made between plants used for everyday ailments and serious health conditions. Primary healthcare is appropriate only for treating self-terminating illnesses and chronic ailments. There exist noteworthy cultural differences in the traditional medicine systems in South Africa, and you can sort of intuit it from the 4 core studies with my literature review species list. And then my last point is that the 5 species we've already shown you, we are of the opinion, has universal potential to be used in a primary healthcare environment. And that is it. Thank you. Baie dankie. Muchas gracias.